The Auto Workers Union has now been striking against General Motors since mid-September. Negotiations continued through the weekend without resolution. Joining us right now for a look at the effect of the strike on suppliers is Michael Grimaldi. He's maintenance technician at Magna Dexsys. That's an auto body parts supplier. Also, Daron Gifford, he leads strategy and automotive industry consulting practices at Plante Moran. And gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Michael, maybe you can tell us first what this means, what it's actually meant at your plant and what you've seen happen.
Well, I mean, obviously the doors are closed, so we have lots of people at my company that are out of work, along with several other suppliers in the area, along with the GM workers.
The GM workers get benefits from the UAW. Are you part of that too?
No, we are not.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, it's the way the industry is. We're a supplier to GM. We're not covered under their contract, so it's nothing that I've ever expected working outside of the GM contract. It is difficult under these conditions when there is a strike because we don't have the aid that they may have.
How do you feel watching this play out? Because it's taken a lot longer than people had anticipated. Who do you think's at fault?
Well, I'm not going to point a finger at anybody. What's difficult is people, a lot of people being out of work. The difficult thing is the media is covering a lot of the GM workers when, in fact, there's probably 2, maybe 3 times more workers affected by the strike that are out of work that really are not being mentioned as much.
So what is your message to both UAW and to GM?
Well, my message is, hopefully that they can work out an amicable agreement and we can get back to work and start producing vehicles and everybody can start collecting their paychecks and start catching up on their bills.
You have any idea about anything that's happening, or what the rest of us know, kind of watching from the outside?
Yeah, I'm on the outside looking in and just seeing updates on TV, social media, and things of that nature.
Yeah, just kind of hoping for some sort of progress. Were you
absolutely
heartened by what you saw last week when it looked like maybe things were taking a turn for the better? The CEO of GM sitting down with the union, which was a pretty unusual move, and then the union, I guess, saying this weekend that they've offered another bid that they hope will be one that GM will accept. What do you think when you hear all that?
Oh, of course, you want to stay positive and hope for the best, but that's what negotiations are. They're offers and counteroffers. So at least progress is being made to where each side believes that they have a fair offer to pass along, and we go from there.
Yeah. Daron, what do you think as somebody who watches the industry and looks at consulting practices along the way? Were you surprised by how long this strike has actually lasted?
Well, it is surprising, only from the standpoint of, if you look at really what the issues that they're talking about, are really not that far apart, and they're really the critical part for the two parties is how to make this a much more collaborative arrangement going forward. Right now, they're kind of caught into this battle between the two of them, at least from the media standpoint and probably in the negotiating room as well, that they're fighting over these issues. And it's become a lose-lose proposition for both of them by having a strike at all, let alone having a strike that's lasting this long and it continues to go on.
You think this strike is really about the switch to electric cars. Can you explain that?
Well, I think in the long term, GM is trying to reposition itself, just like all the other OEMs around the world, to how do they adapt to this new technology called electric cars or electrification in the future. There's already, and people that may want to deny that, I think just need to look at really what's happening. There's over 100 new models that are going to be introduced in electric vehicles over the next 4 years, the duration of this contract. And some of those are going to be lower volumes initially, and it's going to take a while for that to take on for battery electric cars to become cost competitive completely. But in the longer term, the governments in Europe and China are pushing much harder than the U.S. to do that, but we're moving in that direction. So in that regard, those kind of vehicles require a different kind of work content, a different kind of worker, frankly. And that's where I think the collaboration between the two parties, GM and the other OEMs that will be involved eventually in these kind of negotiations, and the UAW need to figure out how do they reposition the workforce, and how do you reskill the workforce as well into this new environment. Suppliers have the same kind of issues, frankly. from the tier ones, as Michael works for, down to the tier twos to supply to them, the tier threes to supply to them. They've got to figure out they're going to reposition their companies as well to make these types of new technologies in the future.